Welcome to you.
Today we are back in the kitchen.
A kitchen!
Okay.
Oh, okay. Hello.
That's not how you flakes. Let's try this again. Welcome back to Hysa House. So glad you're here. We're going to show you how we're making dinner, which is smoked turkey black bean soup. I created this recipe on the fly one day. I rarely write down recipes, but I did this time. I literally tape it to the cupboard door on the inside, and I make this the same way over and over again, and I rarely do that too. Okay, so Buddy and we're gonna sit down and have lunch, but before we do that, I just wanna show you what I did. I started prepping the black beans already, and I'm working from dried black beans. So if you have dried black beans, you can do this too. What time is it right now? 11 o'clock. So you can make this recipe. If it's 11 o'clock your time, you can get this done by dinner time. I've got 2 cups of dried black beans soaking in boiling hot water, and I added 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. So what that vinegar is going to do is start digesting the difficult coating on the outside of the bean that makes it hard for our bodies to digest and creates that classic digestive symptom that we often have when we eat beans. That's going to soak, and it's the quick soak method because I'm using hot water. I have found that is just fine. It works just fine for us. But if you don't have dried beans, just use canned beans. 3 cups of cooked black beans. That's the goal. I'm gonna let this soak while Buddy and I have lunch, and then after lunch, we'll hop back in and show you how to make the soup. We're back from lunch. So the next step is to put the dried beans in the Instant Pot. If you don't have an Instant Pot, you can do this on the stove, but you're gonna cook the beans with the smoked turkey thigh. I use the Diestel brand. So Diestel brand smoked turkey thigh. This gives it such an amazing flavor. This is what makes the soup. Cover it just until covered with water. I'm not gonna add any more salt or any other flavors, just water, beans, and smoked turkey thigh. I'm gonna stick it in the Instant Pot, and I'm gonna push the bean button, and that cooks the beans perfectly and also helps that smoky flavor to permeate through the beans and helps the meat of the turkey thigh get super tender and fall off the bone, which is what we want. Okay, we are back. We've got our beans cooked, and now we are starting the actual soup. I'm using a big, what would you guess?
10 quart?
No, I don't think it's 10 quart. Okay.
5 quart?
No idea how big that is.
17 quart?
You can tell we're professionals. I don't know, just some big pot. It's like a, what do you call those? It's a Dutch oven. It's on medium. I put like maybe a tablespoon of oil in the bottom. I'm using avocado oil. You can use olive oil, whatever you want. Just don't use canola oil. I've also chopped my onions. I chopped them in a previous take and we had no volume, so we're doing this again. I just chopped them, just a regular old dice. Okay, so nothing fancy. I'm not super worried about it. And they're gonna go in the pan now. So you can see the oil is starting to sparkle. That's a good sign. We don't want to sweat the onions. We actually want to just lightly saute them. We want to flavor layer this right away. So get a little sprinkle of salt on your onions, and that will ensure as you're building your soup or your meal that your whole dish is flavorful all the way through, like layers of flavor. So that salt's important. While the onions are going, 3 stalks of celery, and I have 2 stalks plus a few extra little pieces. I'm actually just going to throw all of that in. Just running the knife down the center. This is a rough chop, okay, and I'm even including the leaves. These inner leaves are actually quite delicious, sweet and lovely and fragrant. When I do celery, I cut it in half first, stack it all together, and then just do a chop down like this. Keeping fingers out of the way. And this right here is why I'm a messy cook. Give that a little stir. The next thing we want to do is do the green bell pepper. This is what makes this soup, I think, have a depth of flavor. Okay, so 1 ginormous green bell pepper. I'm really not finicky about this. I slice all the way down, then the core easily just pops out like this. Knock it on the cutting board, scoop all this stuff off the side, and I may use this. This one looks good. Sometimes the top looks a little gross, but I will definitely use that. I'm gonna slice down like this. And turn it. You want to dice it just like the onions. These are going to cook down, be very, very soft, and you may not even see them anymore in the soup, but you will definitely have an amazing flavor. And you may not be able, like someone eating the soup who hasn't watched you cook it, may not be able to identify this flavor in the soup, but it's just going to give such a good rich flavor. Okay, and then give it a stir. While that's cooking for 5 minutes, we'll chop the tomato. It's 2 fresh tomatoes. If you don't have fresh tomatoes, use canned. If you don't have canned tomatoes, just use extra tomato paste. Make it work. I'm doing slices like this and then squares or Now we're going to grab our beans from the Instant Pot, drain them from the liquid, pull the smoked turkey thigh out, and we're going to get all that meat off the bone, and we're going to chop that meat up and have it ready to put in the soup. And those beans are just going to be so smoky and delicious. I have my black beans here, super hot from the Instant Pot. Buried underneath there is the turkey thigh. So I'm going to dig that out and start chopping up the meat. Okay, it's been 5 minutes since I got the onions and the bell pepper and the celery cooking together. So I'm going to add the tomatoes now that are on my cutting board and let that cook together while I do the turkey meat. I'm going to pop this turkey leg out. This leg has a bone in it, and it also has the skin attached. Now this is going to look a little bit not super appetizing, at least in my opinion. Set the skin aside, and basically you can watch. This is just coming off the bone. This is what you want, coming off the bone. If you guys could smell this, it smells so good, comforting and warm, perfect for a cold winter day, cold winter night, and it's not hard at all to get this meat off. And the closer the meat is to the bone, the more nutritious it is. So we definitely are thankful to have bone-in meat. And so I kind of just put this all in a pile together and start chopping. Because the point is you just want, you know, bite-sized pieces, but basically you're doing shredded. It's all shredded. It's amazing how much meat is on a turkey thigh. So the next step is to add the beans and the turkey. Oftentimes I have homemade chicken broth and oftentimes I don't. I use Better Than Bouillon. I don't know if you guys have ever used this before. I use the organic kind and it actually, our Costco sells it. Check your Costco, it comes in a big jar. It's so flavorful and I have used this over chicken bouillon cubes for years. I just think highly of it. So for this soup, I'll probably use about 4 teaspoons. And so that would be a tablespoon plus a teaspoon. When I cook this soup, I don't measure how much water I use. I just know I'm gonna do a big glob of this and fill the pot up to a little bit over the ingredient. Like fill the water to the top of the ingredients and then do another inch, you know, water up to the top plus an inch. Does that make sense? Okay, that's how I cook. So if that doesn't make sense, I'm not your chef. Let's just measure this out just to see how much water it takes. So this is a 4-cup measuring cup. I'm probably going to be using about 6 cups of water. Now's the time to add the spices. First is salt. Second is pepper. Those are always your baseline ingredients, right, to make something flavorful. Because I cooked my own beans and I did not salt them when I cooked them, they are going to be super bland, like cardboard, right? So I want to salt the beans and salt the soup if you think about it that way. My gut tells me I'm going to need probably 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I seriously just go by feel. So I can feel, I can sense, okay, that is not going to be nearly enough salt. So I'll definitely want two teaspoons of salt. 2 teaspoons of salt. I'll let that simmer with the other herbs and spices and then see how it tastes. Okay, fresh ground pepper is so delish. This is probably the most defining spice of the whole soup, and that is smoked paprika. I actually buy it in the tins that look like this, the chiquilin, and it's so good. It's so yummy. We're just gonna do a teaspoon if you want it to be more smoky. This is not spicy at all. This paprika is not spicy. It's just smoky. It smells so good. So 1 teaspoon in, and it gives such a beautiful color. I'm gonna also add 1/2 teaspoon of regular paprika. This is just what they call sweet paprika, but really does add to the depth. I'm calling for 1/2 teaspoon, and I don't measure exact, you guys, so the next thing is 1 tablespoon of onion flakes. Whoops, that's not onion flakes. Let's try this again. Onion flakes. Not exactly sure why I called for onion flakes when I wrote this recipe or when I cooked it originally. For some reason, it sounded like it was a fun idea, and apparently it was yummy. The next ingredient is 1 teaspoon ground garlic or dried garlic. Is that how you say it?
Garlic powder.
Garlic powder. That's the 1 teaspoon garlic powder. The last thing that we add is tomato paste. So 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Again, if you didn't have a tomato to add to the soup, you can add an extra tablespoon at this point. 2 tablespoons doesn't add a huge amount of tomatoey flavor. It just adds depth and a little bit of sweetness. If you guys don't know about this brand, this is my favorite. It's also so much easier than canned tomato paste because for some reason it's just so much easier to just squeeze out what you need, and then it doesn't go to waste the stuff that you've left behind. This is me not measuring, so this is what I do all the time. I just squeeze it out, guesstimate it. So what's left in this tube is exactly what I'm gonna need. I know. You guys, I'm gonna stir it up and then I'm gonna let it simmer maybe half an hour. And then Usually about half an hour is how long it takes for a soup to meld its flavors and really begin like a soup instead of a bowl full of ingredients. It's 3:40 right now. We don't eat till 5 o'clock. So I'm going to simmer it like a real good simmer for 30 minutes, and then I'm going to put it on the back burner and I'm going to turn it down really low and just keep it on a very shy simmer, hardly anything at all, but just keeping it hot. And then when I serve it, I'm going to add in a 1/4 cup of fresh cilantro and a 1/4 cup of fresh parsley. Not only does this add color at the very end, but it also adds just a zap of fresh flavor, which is really important when you've got something that's been cooking for a while and it's all this rich flavor. Then we serve it up, and I'm probably going to serve it with a big old salad and a little bit of bread or whatever. There you have it. I will come back when it's all done and show you the end result. I decided I wanted to make cornbread because it just sounded good. So Baba is here helping me. Baba, can you say hi?
Hi.
Hi. We're following the recipe on the Bob's Red Mill organic medium grind cornmeal bag. It's 1 cup of cornmeal, 1 cup of flour. I'm using gluten-free flour. I like to use better batter because it's better. I used to use Pamela's, but they changed their recipe and I don't like it anymore. So 1 cup cornmeal, 1 cup better batter, 1/4 cup of sugar. Typically cut sugar doses in half. So instead of doing a 1/4 cup, we're going to do 1/8 of a cup. Thank you, buddy. Some baking powder, 2 teaspoons.
That is the baking powder.
Yes, that's the one. Need 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda.
Baking soda.
Yes.
Here, Oscar.
Here's our salt. We're going to add 2 eggs. We're just going to add
Milk.
the milk. Do you want to help Mama?
Yes.
We're just going to add it all together in one bowl and mix it together. And get the egg all mixed together.
The egg all mixed together.
Yeah, all mixed together. Good job. Stir, stir. Stir, stir. Get all that butter mixed in. Good job. This is our 10-inch cast iron pan. We use it all the time for everything. I'm going to cook the cornbread in this. It makes amazing cornbread with amazing crust, huh, Baba?
Yes.
I'm actually going to just butter this lightly and then stick it in the oven and get it hot. And then when I pour this in the pan, it just starts to sizzle right away. Throw it in the oven and bake it. It's just amazing. So that's what we're going to do.
Yes.
Okay, so our pan is hot. I just pulled it out of the oven. I just put it in there for a couple of minutes and it's ready to roll. Here we go. We're gonna pour the cornbread in.
And stir it, Mama.
Wow, we don't need to stir it this time. This time we want to let it just sit there like this.
And they were in that Mama.
Yeah, we set the timer.
Already, Mama.
Put it in the oven. Set the timer. No, we're not gonna stir it.
You want to stir it, Mama?
Yeah, we're not gonna stir it. Put it in the middle rack.
And then you get Mama.
Okay, high five. We did it. My soup is done. It's been simmering and lovely and amazing. And now I'm just going to add the 1/4 cup of cilantro and 1/4 cup of parsley. So smoky and rich. And with a little bit of cotija, a little bit of avocado. It's so good. Cheers, you guys.